You are the five.
Please welcome the woman who has kept Howard Stern in check, Robin Quivers. Not bad. Hi there. 14 years?
14 years?
Did you know it was 14 years that thing? Did you? You're better at your history than I am.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that long. I've been having a good time.
Have you? That's very important.
Yes, absolutely.
Since 1981, Robin has been teamed up with one of the most controversial broadcasters in history, Howard Stern. And they even did a Roper poll on Howard Stern, and they found out 61% found that Howard was demeaning toward blacks, minorities. Now, the most asked question of you has got to be, as a black woman, how do you justify working for a man who's been labeled a racist?
Well, all
by
day
other
long,
people.
Yes, all day long I hear. First of all,
That's
let
the
me
one
point
question,
out,
right? Aren't you
point
bored
out
with it?
in that poll, 40% of the country didn't think he was that way. That's a
Okay.
pretty good, you know.
That's surprising, yeah.
Our presidents are elected by little better margins than that.
Exactly.
So that's pretty good. That's number one. Number two, 60% of the country has never heard Howard Stern either. I mean, we are only heard in 20 markets across the country.
Okay.
So certainly some of those people giving their opinion have never heard the show, and they're responding to what they read in the press.
That's right.
I do not believe that I'm working with a racist or a sexist person. We certainly deal with all of those topics and issues on our show.
But in his heart, he is not. You think.
As far as I'm concerned, no. But how
Okay.
do you know a person's heart? You only know what you know.
That's
I have
true.
known him to be a generous performer, a good co-worker and partner, and that's why I'm there. I'm there because we do an entertainment show, number one, and we're having a good time, and a lot of people who also listen to that show enjoy it on that level. There's now a lot of talk about talk radio.
Oh, yes.
Especially now that we have a Democratic president and a Republican Congress, and a lot of focus has been placed on talk radio. However, we don't do those kind of shows. We're not doing a political show. We're not trying to tell people how to live their lives or how to vote on issues. We try to entertain you on your way to work in the morning.
I think that's fair enough. I don't think he is I don't believe that, in my heart, I don't think he's a racist or a sexist. I think it's like everything else, and I spent 36 years in radio. To me, it's an act. It's like Rush Limbaugh's an act. And he will do whatever he needs to do to shock, because if he didn't, he wouldn't be Howard Stern and he wouldn't be on the air. Inside, I find him probably an average.
You would have to discuss that with him.
Most members of the media are inside liberals, and I think he probably is.
You would have to discuss that with him. I can't answer those questions. I can certainly answer the ones about justifying my role on the show.
Has there ever been a point where you think he went too far?
I don't think that anytime you're having a conversation about something, you can go too far. What we are doing is seeing what people say about things, how people talk in real life.
Okay.
You know, we have this backlash in the country where we think everything on the radio or TV should be nice and pristine. But I'd like to point out to people that during some of the worst times in this country, there wasn't television, movies, or radio to influence people. You know, we had slavery. Right. There were no TVs.
Nobody knew what was going on.
There was no movie telling people and reinforcing those negative opinions of black people that kept us enslaved. During the time when they were using hoses to wash black people down the street for asking for their rights, everybody was very polite on the radio and the television, but it didn't make people change those attitudes or opinion. What changed those attitudes and opinions was confrontation.
Okay. Robin, you're very comfortable with who you are and with your race. Did you always feel that way?
I don't think growing up at the time that I did, a lot of people felt comfortable with their race. You know, we were taught to look down when we were addressed by white people. We were told that, you know, we were supposed to step back and let them have their turn when it came time to be served at a counter. There were some places in the country where we could not be served food. We couldn't drink out of the same water fountain or go to the same bathroom, and we couldn't be registered at the same hotel. So certainly there was a lot of negative impressions out there of what it meant to be black, even as we were growing up. And I grew up in the time that all of those civil rights laws came into effect. So we were at that changing period, and blacks had been suffering under those Jim Crow laws for years when I was being raised. And people taught me, yes, you can't talk up to white people, they're smarter than we are. So you got a lot of negative imprinting. And it took a long time to figure out that that was just the old hogwash.
That's right.
And you didn't have to feel that way. You didn't have to think of yourself that way. And there was no way anyone could stop you if you felt good about yourself.
As a teenager, you would say to yourself, I'm black, I'm black, I'm black. Why?
Well, at the time, we were colored people.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm colored, I'm colored, I'm colored.
No, I didn't say that. It was my effort at changing my feeling about being a black person raised in America, to stop letting other people determine what my name should be. I wasn't going to be a Negro anymore. I wasn't going to be colored.
Oh,
I decided that the revolutionary thing was to be black. Nobody ever confronted that issue. You know, it was a thing nobody wanted to be called. So I would just say, I'm black, I'm black. And then I finally started saying it out loud. You should have seen the reaction. It was incredible.
Where did the ability to succeed come from in you? Robin was a nurse. Robin went on and made herself a nurse, went to the service, and has, I think most people will say, has made a big success of her life.
Well, thank you.
Where does that come from?
I think some of it was innate, and the other part...
Do you?
Yeah. That,
you are born that you're going, no matter what your color, you're born that you're going to do that or you're not going to do it. That's
yes,
strength.
because I've seen too many examples of people who haven't had all of the right things happen to them in their lives, and they succeed anyway. So some of that, you know, is being born a fighter, being born a rebel who's not going to just accept the status quo. And the other part is that I had really good role models, in the sense that at the time there was Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, all of these people who were standing up and saying the things we needed to hear, that it was wrong how black people were treated in this country, and that you had a right at birth to have the same rights and privileges as every other American, and there was nothing about you that innately made you bad or wrong.
Did you know that recently Robin and Howard saved a life by preventing a caller from committing suicide? And this wasn't the first time that Robin encountered a suicidal person, because she herself at one point entertained thoughts of taking her own life. We're going to tell that shocking tale next. Welcome back. We're talking with half of that team, and I give her co-billing. If he doesn't, I do anyhow. Her name, she's radio personality Robin Quivers. Life wasn't always easy. She has been very open in discussing that she often entertained thoughts of suicide. And we said, let's talk about this. Tell me why.
Oh, in the depths of depression, when I didn't think things were working well and that I was possibly going to lose the opportunity to do whatever it was I wanted to do or never see my dreams come true. I didn't really examine at the time what those deep-seated feelings of failure were all about. But when it seemed that I was not going to be able to do what I wanted to do, oftentimes my out would be suicide. Well, if it gets too bad, if I feel too bad, if I can't take it anymore, I can just kill myself. And that was a way of sort of getting through, you know, the whatever was going on at the time. It happened a number of times during my career, but I would think that the worst times were that period in the Air Force when I really wanted to get out and they wouldn't let me. And then when we were hired by WNBC, the radio station that
Only he was hired, you weren't hired.
Not at first.
Yeah.
And then when we got to NBC, it was a real awful situation. You know, we weren't welcomed with open arms, and it was a very difficult time, and we got a lot of negative pounding.
I remember from the book somebody said to Howard, your program will never be heard in New York. which is very typical broadcast stuff for them to do to you. You'll never make it. Your show.
Yeah, you apparently had a lot of that in your career.
They always said that. Never could, never possible, never any of that. And I just think maybe they do that as standard practice. In the book, you candidly discuss what you consider your first heavyweight title bout with your father, right? Tell us about that.
Well, at 11 years old, I was what I would consider a daddy's girl. He was my favorite parent, and we hung out together, and I thought he was my best friend. And at the age of 11, he turned that into something a little bit different. One day I was on my way out to play with some friends after school, and he said, "Come give me a hug." And it wasn't like any hug he had ever given me before. It lasted a long time. It felt different. And the next thing I know, he was kissing me on the lips, which was not something we did in our home. And it turned into months of increasing sexual molestation.
Yes, ma'am.
Robin, you know there is such a thing as black pride, and I fail to see any of that in you. In this day and time where they're portraying black people as negative influence in our lives, I see you contribute to that. I used to watch the Howard Stern show, but after watching you, I became so disgusted with the way that you acted that I couldn't even watch it anymore. I mean, I used to see you when he would make his racist remarks and degrade women, you would be laughing like some type of hyena. I call you Howard's hyena.
But wait a minute. Let me ask you something.
But there should be some things that money should not be able to buy.
Well, that's your opinion, first of all. We constantly hear all day long people talking about our racist society.
Yes.
And then people say to me, how can you sit there with that racist? Well, if society is racist, then all of us are sitting here with racist. Why are you doing that? We have to learn to talk to each other in this country and deal with our problems, address the situation. You don't get up and run out of a room just because somebody says something you don't like. That is your opinion. That's how you plan to deal with it. And shouting at somebody has never changed their mind about anything. Not you. I'm talking about talking to Howard, and when we do a skit on the show and you find it racist, if I were to then scream and walk out, it would still go on.
Right, but still, you don't make jokes of it. You don't make jokes of it.
You
deal
don't.
With it on a serious note.
You don't.
You
have no ability to laugh at yourself, and you're saying that I don't have the right to choose how I would handle myself in that situation.
On a serious level.
That's what you would do.
Let me talk one at a time. What is happening, I have no argument with what you're saying, but when you hear two people talk, one, the mic cancels out.
Right.
So what we're going to have to do is she's going to say what she says, then you leave a pause, and then you say, go ahead, I'm willing to listen to you. What is it you're telling her? But you have to say it in front of the mic.
Okay.
Helps me.
What I'm saying is that the way you deal with this racism, as you put it, is not a funny issue. It's not a funny issue.
You don't listen to our show constantly.
It's nothing to laugh at until it's dealt with seriously.
All right, let me address you now. Our show has many different spices and yes, absolutely. At times we are in the midst of doing a bit. At other times we are discussing the news. At various times we're just having a discussion about life in general. To characterize our show as dealing with any situation in one way is to characterize it in ways that it does not exist.
But
we are having a conversation.
Why is it that you, as a black woman, is the only person being degraded on this issue?
You know what you can do. That is not true. That is not true. We take on every group and every situation, and all you can hear is when it's about black people, because that's your sensitivity. Whenever
yes, ma'am. Stand up.
About black people, that's when you react.
Okay.
When I talk to Hispanics,
her turn. Hello.
When I talk to women, they say the same thing. When I
Excuse
talk
me,
to
I'd like to say something at this moment.
They only hear the insults about themselves.
Okay.
I hear insults about.
Excuse me. Everybody's bashing Robin. I'd like to know, out of everyone in this audience, how many of you have read her book?
I wouldn't read her book.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me talk.
But that's how you get a positive
How many
opinion.
of you have read her book? Number one, if you read her book or even part of the book, you would understand what Robin is about. What Robin does with the Howard Stern show is a job. That is her job. Now, what they do. Wait a minute. No. Wait a minute. You had your talk. Excuse me. For those of you who have thought that. For those of you who think that Robin has sold out, get to know what Robin is about. She has a book out now. No, you only see that now. You see that now, but you don't know her as a person. You see, excuse me,
Wait a minute. It's.
I read the book, okay? What Robin does, what she says.
All right, time out. Time out. Hold out. Shh. Shh. Okay, hello. Hold for a minute. All I'm asking you to do is to be polite to our guests for a minute. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I want to say peace, Robin. It's been 3 years. I haven't seen you in that long.
Oh, wow.
I met Robin in 1992 when I did Howard Stern show twice. And if I didn't know the man like I knew when I met him, I wouldn't have done his show. I caught a lot of heat for doing Howard's show. What you doing up there? You a Muslim. But I got to know the man. The man went out of his way to make me comfortable. After the first show, I got a call back for the second show, okay? Robin, we had a long, we talked, we talked. We got ready, we talked, we got to know each other. It's easy to criticize somebody when you sitting back wanting to be where they are. Keep on the pizza.
I think a lot of times we get this thing confused, the differences between race and ethnicity. It doesn't matter whether it's a radio show or a TV show or whatever. These things get mixed in because they're done deliberately. There's always been one race. There is no racism. You have different ethnicities. Everybody in here came from one race. When that stuff continues, that misinformation continues, all it does is affect everything, and it's done purposely, and it's done to divide us and whatnot. So if we get back on the track of being informed and being educated, we can avoid a lot of this nonsense that's going on right now.
I
agree with him.
I want to say that I was very appalled and disgusted about the comment that Howard Stern made about the tragic death of Selena, the Tejano music star. Excuse me. And he also made a comment about Hispanic people that I did not agree with. He said that Hispanic music was chipmunk music. How could you stand by a man who could sit there and say something like that about a group of people? Excuse me. It is not a comedy.
It's a comedy show.
Hold on a
if
second.
you don't like that type of humor,
Miss Quivers, please give me my chance to speak.
Do you like all types of humor?
Excuse me. Do not insult. Do not insult.
I heard what you had to say.
Miss. You're not letting me finish. Do not insult my people by sitting there and being on stage with Howard Stern and Kane. Do not insult me by not letting me finish. Do not insult Hispanic people that way. That was not a joke. This woman died tragically, okay? She was a 23-year-old woman and she died tragically. It's not for him to make jokes and put gunshots behind her music. How dare he? How dare he? And you let him get away? No, I'm sorry.
Because
wait. I understand that you're doing a job and you're on his show, but I think you should have made a comment about it, whether or not you agree with it or not. How do you feel about the comments he made? You know, Hispanic people are not a joke in
You
this
asked
country.
her a
We need to be
question.
taken more seriously.
Hello. You asked her a question.
Okay,
Let
go
her
ahead.
answer.
Go ahead.
How do you feel, Robin? I agree with this woman. I felt that it, having nothing to do with being Hispanic, I felt it was an unnecessary thing to take after the dead like that. Just unnecessary. And after a group.
Sally's going to go on now.
What we're asking is, how did you feel? That's her question.
All
How
right,
did you feel?
again, out of context, any number of things on my show could be taken in that light. Okay. First of all right, second of all, we have a show that is all about going over the line and exploring the boundaries of bad taste, okay? When we deal with a person who has died, i.e. Kurt Cobain, Selena, we do what we consider our tabloid attempt at a reenactment.
But
and what we do at that time is, as we're presenting that news story, we might play a person's music or play a segment of their show if they're on a TV show or whatever. And then if they jumped off a building, you'll hear a body drop. If they were shot, you'll hear a gunshot. Okay?
I was not aware of
You did not answer my question.
Okay, so we did not
answer my question, Miss Quivers.
Out of
and that proves
the ordinary.
Okay.
We treat all death
that way.
That way.
I did not know that. Yes, ma'am.
I have something to say. In some way, I agree with you because there's a lot of things. By yelling at his audience, yelling at her, it's really not going to do anything. As us black people, we have enough problems in this world already. And by hating each other, it's not going to solve anything. But I really seriously think that you should stand up for your own race.
What am I
seriously
standing up for?
your
First of
own
all,
race.
when somebody, what we're doing is presenting the fact that there are racists in this country, there is racist thought in this country. You can't address every racist, and screaming at them is not going to change their mind. What you should be about is building your own self-image, your own self-esteem, and going to get what's yours.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
those rights belong to everybody in America.
Hi. I think from what you've said so far, I've gotten a really strong feeling from you, and I like what you're about so far. I don't know enough about you, but I know I got a really good feeling, and I believe Howard probably isn't like that in real life either. It's all hype, and I feel like it's a very sad statement
we
that
shouldn't be
so
worried.
many people
Excuse me for a
tune
second.
in.
You made me want to make a point, so I want to address you for a second. The point is, every one of us should be concerned about what we think of ourselves and how we feel about the world. Our show is for you to listen and contrast your opinions with what you hear. We are giving you a picture of the world, and then you can say, oh yeah, I know people who think that way. There are people who talk that way and people who feel that way. What do you do about it? Do you go home to your room and cry because people don't like black people, or do you go on and realize those are stupid comments that people make? That is a stupid thought process that goes on in this country.
Let me take a break. We'll be right back.
You are the five. Get off my stage.
Welcome back. We're talking today to radio co-host Robin Quivers, and she's been working with Howard Stern for the past 14 years. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Robin. I've been a fan of the show for so many years. I don't think Howard Stern is a racist. I'm Jewish, and last year when Schindler's List came out, he put down Jewish people who died in concentration camps. I mean, I got a little annoyed, but I'm not going around screaming about it. I love Howard Stern. I love you. I love the whole show, and
Okay.
And Robin, I was just telling. Wait, Robin, can I ask you one question? Do women really like get undressed in the studio? And,
Oh, absolutely.
Really,
We don't
really
fake
happens?
anything. Yes.
And, okay. That was just,
But I'd also like to point out what that woman is saying. When you listen to the show over the course of time, you understand what it's all about.
It's very
but as
different
I said,
when you listen.
Out of context, you can misunderstand anything.
It's very different when you listen and when you don't. Yes, ma'am.
I understand that you said it's a job and it's.
No, I did not say that was a job.
Well,
Somebody in the
whoever
audience said that.
They understand that you know it's your job.
I know what I'm doing. I'm very proud of the job I do.
all of that. But don't you feel a responsibility to people who are in, since you're a public eye, don't you feel responsibility to...
I carry myself in a way that I'm very proud of, and that's the example, okay? You don't read anything about Robin Quivers doing anything untoward. I am there as a positive example. When you sit and say to me that all black people talk like this, I'm sitting right there not doing it. That's the example. I am there. I am the example.
I asked you for an example. I said...
Why do you think
I didn't ask you for an
because-
example. What I wanted to know was, don't you feel some responsibility for the people who don't understand that it's an entertainment show? Don't you feel a responsibility to carry it a little better than what you're doing?
All they have to do is either listen or don't, okay? But don't comment on things you don't know if you don't listen.
Let me turn the mirror. Let me turn the mirror a bit. Meet Daisy. Daisy, you all right?
I'm fine.
Daisy was born Puerto Rican. She feels this was a curse. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Look, first of all you Puerto Ricans out there, you have your opinion and I have mine. You can be proud of your Puerto Rican race and I give you that right. But you know what? Don't take it from me. You know why? Because all I see in the Puerto Rican communities, and I'm not some penny any white girl anywhere, if you may think that, okay? I grew up in East New York, okay? I'm not talking from some TV show. I'm not talking from someone telling me. I'm telling you from experience. Not that I'm saying I want to be white because I'll go out and get a job, because I'm going to get it based on who I am.
But what is wrong?
Okay?
Wait. What is...
I am myself.
Daisy, what's wrong with being Puerto Rican?
First of all, Puerto Rican men, if you're out there, they beat their women.
Let
You are
Daisy
rude.
talk.
You are rude. Listen. Why am I right? Why am I rude?
All men beat women, sweetheart.
Very true. Very true. Very true.
Okay, hold on.
Wait a minute.
Daisy, I'm willing to listen to you. Talk to me. Shh, shh, shh. Con calma. Con calma. Dame un momentito. Let's listen. Daisy, go ahead. Tell me what's wrong again. The men beat their wives. What else?
Men beat their wives. Women, as I say, the men do abuse them. They get pregnant. They head for the welfare line. They claim, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. They claim that they don't know where the fathers are when they do. And then here comes next year rolls around, here comes another baby. Where's the father? Where's the father? But no, they didn't know where the father. No, I'm not saying that it's just the Puerto Rican race, but look in the prisons. What do you see in there? Blacks and Puerto Ricans, majority. I'm not talking about, you know, there's good and bad in everything. I'm just talking about myself.
Oh.
Okay?
Okay.
That's number 2.
All right, wait. Yes, what's the problem?
The problem is she's talking about all. All races have problems like that. Black, white, whatever. Everybody has problems.
Didn't I just
she
say
cannot
that?
say on
No.
one person,
Didn't I just
on
say
one
that?
race, on one race.
Didn't I just say that?
Black, you're saying Puerto Rican women have babies. They're on the welfare line. That goes for black, white, any.
That's true.
In the
That's
prison,
true.
there's
But what
white
is
men.
the majority?
So
What is the majority?
Just because, excuse me,
First of all,
just because
she's absolutely right. Those problems, you can't name a problem that belongs to any particular group. You may have encountered in your life those kind of people, those kind of examples, but you should not label your whole race, and you shouldn't label yourself, because you are Puerto Rican. You can never deny where you come from.
That's true. That's true. You know why? Because it's on my birth certificate, but if I had the chance, I'd change it. Only. Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Only, but that's my choice. That's my choice. I am not. I am myself. I don't need a race. I am me and who I make of myself.
Daisy, you have to address Sally and who Sally's talking to.
Daisy, let me finish my whole statement before you comment. Okay, if you took as much energy into researching your history and finding your orgullo, your pride for being Boricua, you would be a lot more better in life. Okay? What you're doing, wait, let me finish. What you're doing is negating your whole existence because you are Puerto Rican and should be proud of that. Okay? Because you don't know nothing about being Puerto Rican. I would love to take the time to teach you about your culture, your history, and what makes you you. And this culture today. Okay? Because my major is Spanish. My major is Spanish and my Puerto Rican and Black Studies at Hunter College, and I know what I'm talking about. And if you would like to take the time to speak to me about what you are all about, I would love to do that.
And
okay?
you know what?
Because you are negating your whole existence. You are Puerto Rican, okay? And you walk down the street and people see you as Puerto Rican, so you live your life as a Puerto Rican, and don't be ashamed of it, please.
No, wait a minute.
Don't
You
be
know what?
ashamed of it.
I
Because
applaud
you're
you,
dissing me,
and I give it to you if you look, if you go into some research,
wait.
but don't
Take
put
it
it on
easy.
me.
This is what you're taking. Yes. I'm telling you, you have to take the time to research.
But that's not my choice.
That's not her choice. But the point is, Daisy, if you're not living that way, you are the living example that Puerto Ricans don't have to be that way, and all Puerto Ricans are not that way. You have to be proud of who you are as a human being, and you are also, that's part of who you are. You are Puerto Rican, and you should stand up and say that proudly. You're not responsible for every other Puerto Rican and how they act in the world. That is not your job.
But you know what? I don't.
Yes, they will. They'll get through.
Because
Just stand
I
here
don't-
with me. You have to be like I am, relatively calm. Let's go.
I have several comments directed at your guest. First of all, I'm from Canada and I'm not familiar with your show.
There you go. Okay.
However, I would welcome the opportunity to have your radio show. Several years ago, there was an attack on women at University of Montreal, which is my university.
I remember that.
Women were shot. The following morning, all the radio shows, the rock stations, were very serious. It was called Tact. Had they were making jokes of it, I would just do what I think a lot of the audience members should do who are hostile. Shut it off.
That's right. That's what you should do. If something is bothering you,
Good
shut it
point.
off.
Very good point. We'll be right back. As if this hasn't been difficult enough, we want you to meet Kathie and May. Kathie and May say that there is nothing worse than having to live in this world in white skin. They say they would do anything to change it. Kathie, let's start with you. You told our producers if you could take a magic pill to be black, you would do that.
True.
Why?
Because I do know I live in the ghetto, so I wouldn't stand there like a sore thumb. No, because you throwing questions and I ain't even started talking yet.
Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, I would take it for the fact I wouldn't stick out like a sore thumb. And before we get started, let's not get it messed up. I'm not ashamed of who I am, because I'm proud of myself. I'm ashamed of all the white people out there. All right? Okay. For the fact, I'm about to explain it short and simple. All right? Wait, hold up. Time for a minute. Okay. All right? For the reason, they sit up in the offices down and you put a white man and a black man in a suit. Who gonna get that job? That white man, because that's all they looking out for. A black. Yes. That's what you want to. That ain't even right. No. That is bull. That's not. That is true. That's not. That's not true.
All right.
A white man's gonna get that job because of what you think.
Hello. Hold on a minute. You have to listen to Kathie speak. Kathie, you do your best to look black. Is that correct? What do you do to look more black?
If you can't see, if you can't tell by looking at me, I don't need. If you can't tell, all right. This is me. Y'all can. This is me. I don't care. Y'all can. This is me. This is
okay.
My style. I ain't saying it's not black. I didn't say. This is my style. This is what I choose to wear. This
not
me.
Black.
This is me. This is me.
Darling, that's not black.
This is me.
That's a style, okay? That's a style. That's not black. I'm black.
True indeed. I know
I'm a different shade of black.
I know
He's a different shade of black.
I know that. You ain't telling me nothing I don't know.
Okay?
May, do you feel the same as she does?
Yeah, I do. I think white people have a lot of resentment toward blacks. I think they still don't understand them. They don't live with them, okay? I live in a neighborhood where there are the situation is. These black people, okay, Afro-Americans, they are human, okay? We are all human. If I cut my wrist, you cut yours, I am telling you, the blood is going to be red. There is not going to be a difference in the blood. And the fact of the matter is these people deserve their chance. And they're hospitable people.
But why do you need to be black in order to feel better about yourself? If we're all human beings, why can't you be who you are and feel good about it?
I am. This is me. I've been like this for years. This ain't no act. This ain't no overnight thing.
It's not about an act. You just said if you could take a pill.
Let me take a break. We'll be right back.
I had to answer that question.
You are the five. Get off my stage.
Meet Shawn. Shawn, you've been sitting there kind of quiet.
What's Shawn?
Shawn would probably tell you that you are crazy to want to be black because Shawn is black and he's embarrassed by his race. He says it has gotten so bad that he would like to exclude himself from being black. Shawn, why? Just tell us why.
First of all, I'm very proud to be black. I like to be black. I have a very strong mother and grandmother who raised me, and they were very strong black influences on me. What I mean by I'm embarrassed by other black people by the way that they present themselves socially. You have to admit that they present themselves very poorly in social settings. That is a fact. That is a fact. I have worked in retail for over 4 years. And the way that the black teenagers, the black older people come into the mall and act is, to me, it's really disgusting. That the way they act and that they treat other people. They are very loud.
But aren't there
rude,
white teenagers?
Obnoxious. Yes, but this is the thing. You don't see them. You see the blacks over anybody else. They are the ones that want to be heard over everyone else. They are loud and belligerent. That's in my experience. I'm not saying this is for everybody. This is in my experience. And you have to be honest with yourself. If you're not being honest with yourself, then you know, I'm just being honest. I'm being realistic about it.
What would you say to Shawn?
That's what I said. I said it's in my experience.
Excuse me.
I'm not talking here for
Is
everyone.
his name Shawn?
Yes.
Shawn, why do you become personally embarrassed if people who are out there in the mall are acting in a way that you would not act?
Because they might think that I'm the same way. They might say, well, he's black. Well, let me go to this white salesperson.
Excuse me, but Shawn, you can't run your life that way. You have to represent Shawn when you're in your workplace and wherever you go. So there are people of all persuasions who act up and get out of control and do the wrong things, okay? We cannot sit around saying it's embarrassing to be me because somebody over there
I'm not
did
saying it's embarrassing to be me.
Wrong, and I'm afraid people will think that's me. That is that person's problem.
Okay,
if they want
let
to
me ask you this.
characterize all black people by one that they met, that is their problem.
But you know what? It happens. That's the reality of it all. And
you have the opportunity to make them think differently because you represent yourself well.
And I do that for myself.
Okay, please listen.
Sally, I really don't understand this because my family, we call them the melting pot. We have blacks, we have Spanish, we have Italian, we have Jewish, we have everything. And everybody in our family gets along. Everybody. 2 of my sisters are married to Puerto Rican men. One of my brother has an Italian wife. My family is mixed. We have a little bit of everything.
This is in case you're asking yourself, this is a show about pride and belief in oneself. That's
what should have pride in themselves.
Okay. We'll be right back.
I just want to congratulate you on your book. And I think, in spite of all the controversy, I think you're a beautiful person.
Well, you know what? Let me just say one thing. I learned about dealing with controversy from one of my role models when Muhammad Ali came along, and he was doing all the things that we were told we weren't supposed to do. Nobody applauded him either. None of these black people were applauding him, but he kept doing it because he believed in himself. And I believe in myself. In fact, I just gave a speech not too long ago at the Parkinson Foundation dinner to honor Muhammad Ali, and I have always been proud of who I am, and it comes from a deep-seated pride. I don't have to yell at people to prove it. I don't have to dress in a certain way to prove it. I don't have to talk with my hands to prove it. All I have to do is stay in this skin and be proud of who I am.
Yes, Shawn.
This is what I would like to ask the audience. For those of you who object to what we are saying, let me ask you this. What are you doing in your community to give back? If you are not part of the solution, do not be part of the problem. That is what I'm saying. What do you personally do? Do you go out into your community? Do you go out to the YMCAs, the Boys Club, and so on?
Shh. One at a time. Yes, ma'am.
Daisy, I still don't understand why you're not proud of being a Puerto Rican. You just generalize. You haven't been specific about one thing. And basically, all of you just up here, you just want to be on TV. That's what it sounds like. Because you say you're from the ghetto. You say you're from the ghetto. What is a ghetto? What is a ghetto?
It's not like that. Let me explain to you, okay? You have your opinion. Wait a minute. Let me finish.
Say it.
I have mine, okay? You should not tell me how I should feel about myself.
But you haven't told me what it is.
Why? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. You know why? Because when I go out there in the streets and I see the Puerto Ricans and I see the white people looking down at them. I've lived on both sides. Wait a minute. I've been on both sides of the coin. And you know what? This woman here that talked about the melting pot, let me tell you something about prejudice. I'm far from prejudice because my family is a melting pot. My son and daughter, my daughter's Puerto Rican, my son is Chinese, my boyfriend is a Russian Jew. And that's right. And my mother was Puerto Rican. All right?
Yes,
but you know
no-
what? My
yes,
mother
sir.
did not teach
Daisy,
me.
Daisy,
I
hold.
haven't seen any pride.
Sally, this is the pressure from institutionalized racism. For every strong-minded person that walks the face of this earth, you have thousands of people who walk around hypnotized. They don't have a clue, and the program they pick up, whether it's negative or positive, they drink it up like water into a sponge. And because there's more of them than there are more of the strong-minded people that are able to say the things that everybody knows are true, that everybody's human and we all bleed the same and all that stuff, it gets lost in the wash. I hope sincerely that your show will be the first show that whenever there's a topic that has anything to do with anything involving racism, they make the distinction between race and ethnicity.
Yes, ma'am, go. Now listen. We'll be right back. Thank Robin Quivers for being our guest, and to tell you that she's written an excellent book called Quivers, A Life.
That's right. Thank you.
you for being with us. See you next week.